or of my project, my bad. I'm just going to tell you a little about it. What I decided to do is I decided to stick to something that hits home for me. And what I'm comfortable with is running and writing, and so I decided to mix the two together. And I came up with making somewhat of a fictional story based on true events about about a hill that I ran that took quite a bit of work, and what I called it in my story, it was a 15-page paper, and in the short story, it came up with what the climb was about for the Dream Hill. In Fountain Green, there's this hill that we call the Dream Hill. Tell you a little bit about it. It is a 3,863-foot elevation climb over a period of 7 miles. So it has quite a steep slope, I guess, and I had to, in my finished project ended up being, I ran it in less than 2.5 hours, which for me was pretty big at that time because it was the sheer, what's the right word for this? Let's see, just the hugeness of it, I guess that's the best one I can think of. The hugeness of it just absolutely bewildered me, and so what I called this was one step at a time for the appropriate going up 3,000 feet each time.
Well, that sounds like you slew Humbaba, whose name is Hugeness. That's what Gilgamesh, his first great achievement.
All
Nice.
right. So one of the questions that I was asked to answer for the honors is what problem I had. My problem was I did not have enough time. I was doing sports, and when I was doing those sports, we always traveled at least an hour one direction. And and when I'm traveling, I had no time whatsoever to get on my laptop to type up a paper or whatever. I could read, but I couldn't type up a paper. I couldn't write it down because it's just too bumpy or whatever. And plus the stress of a sport is just, sometimes it can be a little overwhelming, and I just didn't have enough time. I came up with a plan of, I pretty much had to organize. I had to prioritize. I had to put the things, I had to put what was first, give it more time than what didn't need it. And I found that once I did that, I was hitting it. I was able to organize everything. I was able to complete this project. Also, my next thing was we had to learn how to work together. With me, cross country is a sport where you're pretty much by yourself. So it was a little stretch for me, but I've also played basketball where that is also a team sport. So I know what teamwork is, and I know what your self-work is. And I sort of added both of them together when Mr. Bey asked us to meet for these late night classes. Sometimes I wouldn't be able to meet because I had sports, for example, that would take up the time. But what we learned, what we helped each other, we were critical when we were there. We were critical about what we were doing, about if something didn't look right, if something didn't sound right. We were just helping each other. We were able to make sure that when we walked in here today, that we performed to the best of our abilities. My next thing was adaptation. What did I have to do to adapt? Well, I had a lot of things to do. I had a lot of homework, a lot more than last year, especially with Mr. Bey. Surprising enough, the honors was challenging, very challenging, but Mr. Bey didn't help when he assigned a whole bunch of essays as well every week. And so it was just, I had to change my ways. I had to be able to, like I said before, prioritize. I had to adapt to being able to cram in a 20-minute page essay, to hurry, get it in while working on my honors, while meeting the deadlines. My next thing was, how was I a leader? I was a leader in the sense of I had to lead my own life. I had to tell people no, I had to tell people yes. Uh, I had to direct people saying, okay, this is my schedule. I cannot bend it at all. Maybe this way, maybe that way, but it will not bend in the middle. I need you to be able to work for me right here. And it in turn, it helped. All my teachers were able to come to me saying, this is what we're doing. We can have it due for you a couple of weeks early, or just so on and so forth. They understood that I was trying to be my best in all my athletics and academics, and they understood that I needed to have room, I needed to have space. My next thing was, how did I improve orally and writtenly? I improved writing because, well, Mr. Bey assigned us a lot of of homework assignments, a lot of essays, and also he assigned us this honors project, and it's not easy writing a 15-page paper or short story the way you want it continuously. And so it keeps on going and going. And then I also improved orally. For example, right now, I am able to stand in front of you and speak to you guys to help me get comfortable with this, so I'm able to do it in my college or next year, or so on and so forth. And as you can see on the top left, or on the left I should say, picture, it is always a continuous improvement. You always have room to improvement. If you don't, humble yourself, because you have room to improve. Okay, so the other problem was I couldn't analyze information when I was reading 3 books at once. Mr. Bey asked me, and I will get to it later in one of my slides, he asked me to read these 3 books, and I couldn't understand them because in all my life I haven't been able to read 3 books at once, and it just drives me crazy. It's kind of like, for me, I also like languages, and so when I am, I'm learning Mandarin Chinese right now, and so I'm mixing English and Mandarin Chinese as well as Spanish in the same sentence, and I don't realize it because it all makes sense in my head, but I just can't analyze it. I can't decide what it is. And so that was a really big problem for me, but I was able to just, okay, 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there, just focus on this, focus until you at least get some part of it right. Okay, and this was my hardest one, not really. The curiosity sort of came into play when I decided I would write a short story. In order to write a short story, a fictional short story, you have to have curiosity, you have to have imagination. Otherwise, your short story is going to suck. And so it's just, you won't be able to do anything. You'll be able to state the facts, but you won't be able to tell people how great it was, even though it wasn't. What I learned from my sister when I was very young is she told me that we love to just make our childhood look so glorious. We love to make it that way, and that's because we had an imagination. We were able to exaggerate things. We were able to see the most simplest things and make it one of the best things in the world. And that was just one of our key things when we were little kids. And so I was able to use this to find out where I wanted to go with this short story. All right, I told you I would get back to these 3 books, but one of the out of class in class honors project was Mr. Bey asked me to read 3 books. As you can see, one of the books was The Loneliness of the Long Distance Runner, The Olympian, and Once a Runner. And they were all great books on their own, and it helped me also to give an outline to Mr. Bey of what I was going to do with my short story. I was able to read these books and to see where I wanted my middle to be, where I wanted my ending to be, where I wanted my beginning to be. It was able to help me make a skeleton for my my whole entire body of my short story. All right, organization. So, to more maybe show you guys what I've benefited from this is last year. This isn't really pictures of my room or anything, but it's pretty darn close. Last year, at the beginning of the year, I should say, this is how my room was, and I was at the beginning of the year. I had a lot of F's. I had to organize really quickly, and while doing this in-course honors project, it's forced me really to organize myself, to put things where they belong. Because I found out if I didn't know where my pencil was, or if I didn't know where my notebook was, or one of my important papers I needed, if I didn't know where that was, I would be suffering it the very next day. I would be suffering at that moment. Because when I was writing a short story, I would have these moments, I would have these epiphanies. And it would come, and I was like, oh, that's a good idea. I can't find my pencil. Oh no, I find my pencil 10 minutes later and it's gone. I lost it. And I could have had a really awesome short story if I would have been more organized early on. But eventually it turned out to be the right side. So I'm glad for that. And what I deserve this honors project, not just because of I wrote the short story, but I ran into the problem also. One of my extreme problems was very lately, this last week, I ran in my Google Docs, my email wasn't working. I would get onto my Google Docs where I stored my short story, and it would be gone. Nothing would be there. And this happened twice. And so I had to scram, just getting it all in. I was freaking out. I didn't know what to do. And so I spent late hours at night to get it all done, because I don't know for you guys, I'm a slow typer, I'm a slow writer, and typing up a 15-page paper is sort of almost impossible for me to do. And so I think I deserve this because of all the time I put forth into it. As well as I had other things just constantly bombarding me to stop me from doing it. But yet I still managed to accomplish it. And I just hope you guys get a chance to read it, and I'll leave you guys with that.
Wow, that was incredible. I'm glad we recorded that for posterity. You're incredible.
Thank you.
That was great. Question?
Just one. What was the final deliverable? What was the final project?
The final project was a 15-page short story called One Step at a Time. It dealt with just what I know about running. It's related to the hero's journey, Joseph Campbell's, and I put in trials I ran through, just sort of the mental part, sort of to let people know what cross country is all about. It's not just running around in circles or going as far as you can in one direction. It's more mental than it is physical. So I just sort of wanted to add that in to show people what it was like. So that was my final.
That was great. You should join the speech and debate team too. I like the way you communicate. You're a very appealing speaker.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Jack.
No problem.